Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn about the cell and its organelles. A cell is the smallest structural and functional unit of life. All living organisms, including plants, animals, and humans, are made up of cells. So, what is meant by cell? Cell is a structural and functional unit of all living organisms. It was first discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665. Human body has 75 trillion numbers of cells and it is made up of macromolecules like nucleic acids, proteins, carbohydrates and lipids. The cell is derived from a Latin word cella, means a compartment, and the cell has an unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms, where unicellular organisms which contains only one cell, that is amoeba, E. coli, etc., whereas multicellular organisms which has more than one cells are called as a multicellular organisms, that is plants, animals and humans will come under the multicellular organisms. And according to cell theory, all living organisms composed of one or more cells. New cells are created from the pre-existing cells, and cells are the structural and functional unit of all living organisms. So let us see the structures of cell that determines its functions. For example, RBC, red blood cells, is biconcave in shape and has no nucleus and it has no organelles. So sac carries hemoglobin, where the oxygen from the lungs and the gills to all part of the body tissues, and whereas with the help of lungs it will excrete the carbon dioxide. So for example, 2 neuron, it sends and receives the impulses from our brain, that means that signals. And the cell has three main parts, that is a plasma membrane, cytoplasm and nucleus. So plasma membrane is also called as a cell membrane. So it is an outer layer where it will not allow any organelles or substances that enter into the cytoplasms. It will act as a valve. And cytoplasm and nucleus. Inside the plasma membrane there are various types of organelles like endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, nucleus, nucleolus, chromatin, ribosomes, cytoplasms and so on. And let us see about the plasma membrane. It acts as a gate. So it is an outer lining membrane that separates the inner components of cell from extracellular materials. It is also called as cell membrane, plasmilla or cell wall. It is a very thin and delicate membrane, and the thickness is about 6 to 10 nanometer. And about the structure we see means with the help of electron microscope only we will be able to see the plasma membrane. The plasma membrane is arranged in 3 layers, that is trilaminar structure. The basic trilaminar structure is generally described as unit membrane. The 3 layers are outer layer, inner layer and middle layer. Outer layer and inner layer are made up of proteins and middle layer is made up of lipids. So the protein layer is made up of 2 types of proteins. They are integral proteins and peripheral proteins. The integral proteins will extend across the lipid layer which from the membrane pores, whereas the peripheral proteins are present on either side of lipid layer. They do not extend across the lipid layer. The thickness of each protein layer is about 25 VA degree. Proteins are generally glycoproteins. So lipid layers is made up of phospholipids. Phospholipid molecules line in 2 rows with their heads lying on the surfaces and tail pointing at each other. You can see the picture there. And the head end is having phosphate group and is water soluble, which is known as hydrophilic end. The tail end consists of 2 fatty acids and is water insoluble, which is known as hydrophobic end. The thickness is approximately 38 degree. So which is water soluble is known as hydrophilic, and water insoluble is known as a hydrophobic end. Okay, and next we are seeing about the functions. So it will give the shapes and structures to the cell. So it plays an important role in cell signaling and communications. It also regulates the materials that enters and leaves the cell. It is a selectively permeable membrane, and it permits a passage of certain substances and restrict the passage of certain substances of oxygen, carbon dioxide. But water can easily cross through the cells, but this ferrous, potassium and the potassiums and sodium will not easily cross, so it will bind with protein and then will transport it through it. And the transportation through the plasma membrane occurs in two ways. They are active transport and passive transport. What is meant by active transport? The transportations of substances by the utilizations of energy, that is ATP, adenosine triphosphate, in the process like primary active transport, whereas secondary active transport, phagocytosis, pincocytosis and endocytosis, exocytosis, is called as active transport. Passive transport, transportations of substances without utilizations of energy, that is without the utilizations of ATP, is known as a passive transport. That energy that by simple diffusion, osmosis, filtrations is called as a passive transport. So let us go to the cytoplasm. So cytoplasm is a semi-liquid jelly-like substances present in the cell that is between the plasma membrane and the nucleus, and it mainly consists of cystole, organelles and inclusions. So cytoplasms or cystoles, it is a semi-fluid portions in which the organelles and inclusions are suspended, also called as an intracellular fluid, and actually it contains about 75 to 90% of water and remaining are solids. So it is a medium in which metabolic reactions occurs. So cytoplasms, so it is a specialized structures that have characteristic appearance and specific role in growth, maintenance and repair and control of cellular activity. It is classified into three types: membranes, organelles, cytoplasmic ribonucleic acids, centromes and microtubules and microfilaments. So cytoplasm inclusions are non-living substances present in the cytoplasm. It is not bounded by any membrane. There are four types, that is stored food, for example, for stored food, examples is an glycogen, and secretion granules, crystals, example proteins, and pigments, melanin and bile. This will come under the cytoplasm inclusions. And endoplasmic reticulums, it acts as a network of intercellular membranes. It can be present in the form of hollow tubes or flattened sheets or round chambers called cisternae. You can see in the picture, it is connected to the nucleic membrane on one side and to the plasma membrane on the another side. There are two types based on the presence or absence of ribosomes on its surfaces, that is a rough endoplasmic reticulum and a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The membranes of if you see the rough endoplasmic reticulum, the membranes of endoplasmic reticulums are associated with minute particles of RNA, are called ribosomes. These are the presence of ribosomes. It gives the membranes as a rough appearance, where it helps to synthesize the proteins, and it also serves as a temporary storage area for newly synthesized molecules. And if you see the smooth endoplasmic reticulum by the picture itself, it is very smooth and flattened, so it will not have ribosomes, where the rough will have RNA and it will not have RNA. So which are not having ribosomes, it is a site for fatty acids, phospholipids and steroid synthesis. It is involved in lipid, cholesterol and carbohydrate metabolisms. So let us see about the functions of endoplasmic reticulum. So it provides surface area for various chemical reactions that takes place in the cell, and also it helps in protein, fatty acids, phospholipids and steroid synthesis. Various products are transported from one part to another part of the cell. So it is also for functions, it will come under same functions, it will come under for smooth and rough endoplasmic reticulums. So let us see about the Golgi complex. So it is present near the nucleus. The cells with more secretory activities are having more number of Golgi complexes. So by the structure, there are four main structures, that is flattened vesicles, you can see through the pictures, and Golgi vesicles and secretory vesicles and microvesicles. And the small particles are called as a microvesicles, and whereas the secretory is the end and flattened is called, you can see through the pictures, the flattened vesicles, 3 to 6 in number, stocked up each other. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 flattened vesicles there, and Golgi vesicles bulged into flattened vesicles. You just see the end, you will be seeing the flattened vesicles. There is a bulge. And the secretory vesicles, Golgi vesicles bulge much and they get detached from the flattened vesicles. And microvesicles, small in size, are transport vesicles. They carry the material from endoplasmic reticulum to flattened vesicles. So what are the functions of Golgi complex? In Golgi complex, it has the four types of functions. One is processing, and another one is sorting, and another one is packing and dispatching of substances that takes place. That will be takes places. It also secretes polysaccharides.